Hi, today we'll create this responsive text fields in Figma. Let's get started. I'm gonna get one by one and I'm gonna show you how it's done it, okay? So let's ungroup everything. This is gonna be our email right here. This is gonna be our icon. We're gonna detach the instance as well and we're gonna create input. Alright, first make sure that we have our font, which is 16 and the line height is 150%. The font family you can see right here. The color of the text is 101828. Let's close. So now what we're gonna do, the icon color is gonna be 9882B3. Now let's select both elements and add an auto layout. Let's add the padding to 8. Let's align it to center. What we're gonna do is we're gonna create the label, right? Let's add the padding. So let's add the padding to 12 and size is gonna be 16, okay? So let's check it out. We have 14 and 12. I like to make it 16. If you wanna make it 14, it's fine. Let's make it 14 if just to follow the example, okay? Now let's add the fill, which is gonna be our solid white, and let's add the color stroke, okay? So let's add the stroke color. So let's hit plus, let's get the eyedropper tool and let's inspect it. So it's gonna be 667085, okay? Cool. Now we have to add the corner radius. This is where you have the corner radius 100%. What I suggest do is add 999, and no matter the height of the actual field, you'll always be 100% corner radius. I do not suggest you doing, so if it's, let's say the instance 23, let's say 12, let's add 8. So it can't be like that. So this is not right. You either add it all the way down to 100% or you just keep the increments of 8, 12, 14, 16. This is 16 of this one won't work, so we have to do 24, which won't work as well, so it has to be all the way. When we've created it, let's make sure we have the input width is going to be the same as this one, so it's 343, right? So let's do the same. Okay, so this field is created. Now we have to add the constraints, okay? Now let's add text to fill container icon. We're gonna add the constraints of the vector. You see it's already cool. It's gonna be on the left, so let's leave it as it is, and the actual input is gonna be fixed width and hug content, okay? So this is done. Let's delete this instance. Now let's create the second one. So this one's gonna be our default. All right, cool. This is done. Now let's make sure we have labeled everything accordingly. So default, email, icon. Okay, cool. Now it's done. Let's duplicate it right here. Let's create the focus state. So focus state is gonna be, we're gonna add the stroke, which is of 1 pixel stroke, which is AFC1FF. We're gonna copy it over and we're gonna replace this stroke with the new color. Great, so this is done. Now what we have to do is we have to add this shadow. Usually I'm adding the shadow. You can do it through stroke, but then you won't be able to add the opacity to it, or yeah, so that's why I suggest doing through shadow. So let's go ahead and get this element, right? And let's copy these shadows and add them here. Okay, so this is done. What we have to do now, in order for it to work is we have to clip content, okay? Otherwise it won't be visible. If you see, if you unclip it, the shadow, the effect is not visible. So have clip content. Okay, now let's inspect the shadow option we have. So it's 0 on X and Y axis. We have 0 and the spread is 4 and the color is 100%, the code you see right here. The second shadow is going to be on the axis, on the X 0, on the Y is going to be 1, blur 2, and this color, which is, you can see right here, is 5% opacity. Okay, now it's cool. So this is going to be our focus color. Now let's do the disable state. So let's duplicate the focus state. So on disabled we have to make sure that, let's deactivate our shadow. So we're gonna hide it because we don't need it. Let's replace the shadow color to this one right here that you can see on the screen. So let's replace this D0, D5, DD. Okay, the same applies for the background color because it's F9, FAFB, and then we're gonna apply the same for our email, because you have to see that it's deactivated and you're not able to complete it. Ideally, what I like to do is just to make it even more transparent, but the thing is that it has to pass the contrast ratio for accessibility in Google, so that's why I leave it like that. Okay, so let's say disabled. Cool. Now let's go fill. So this is filling option when the user is filling the text field. So we're gonna do right here, we're gonna hide the icon. So you see, if we use the layout, the content automatically pushed to the left, but while the width of the input field remain the same. Okay, so now we're gonna reuse the same color as we have previously, because we have to make sure we're using the colors. So there's two options to create the filling state. One is you create the rectangle right here, and you can just make sure that it looks like a cursor, and we can just add it in. Let's do that. Okay, here we go, done. So this is fixed. So this is filling option. Right here, and we're gonna add the shadow. So let's copy the shadow that we have here. You can see the values is the same shadow that we created before, but it's just first one enabled. Okay, so let's keep it like that. Well, let's make sure that this input field is white. Great, now this is done. So let's create an error state. So if you see, the error state is a bit different. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is delete this this cursor because we don't need it anymore. 0, and it's gonna be hidden. Okay, so Angela at example.com. Great. So now let's add this error color. Okay, so we're gonna go to stroke, we're gonna add the color in. So if you see, it has the little hint, the message. Is very important that we have this message, because otherwise if we're just gonna display the message but we don't inform the user what the actual error is, he might not know, and he just gonna abandon the actual onboarding or register flow. Okay, so now let's add an auto layout. So for the message, ideally it has to be between 4 and 8. Okay, so I'm gonna keep it to 6 because this is the best spacing, I think, because if you give it too small, then it will not responsive. It will touch the actual input field and there's gonna be many issues. So if you keep it from 4 to 8, you should be good. So now we have our icon. So between the icon and the actual message, you have 8 pixels and the icon size is 16. So always, as I mentioned before, try to work on 8 pixel scale. So this will help you a lot in the future. Okay, so now let's duplicate this message and let's create the success. Okay, so we're gonna create success. Great. So let's copy the color. So you can see the color right here. The same applies for the message. When you do that, you try to always to reuse the components that you already have. So this if this one right here is 12 and the line has 150, this one right here cannot be 14 or 16 or 18. Try to always be consistent on what you're doing, because in the future you're gonna use these inputs everywhere on our website. So make sure you follow these guides when you start it. Okay, this is very important. So now success message is done. Okay, now what we're gonna do is select all these elements, okay, and let's align them to the left. Make sure they align. Now we're gonna go and create multiple components and combine them as variants. Okay, so we're gonna say this is input fields, or it can be text fields, whatever you want to call it. Okay, now it's done. So if we hover over, we can see on the right panel that we don't have any issues. That means all the styles that we've defined right here, they're all correct. Okay, instead of property, this one should be, say, state. Okay, this is more accurate, because property, it's not really related to what we're doing right here. Okay, so I will show you something. If we have this input and it says default, if I'm gonna name the focus one default, all right, as well. Now, and now when I'm clicking right here, you see it says we have a conflict because 2 elements have the same name. So we have to make sure that that all the input fields are named properly in order for it to work. So now let's add the instance. So now if we gonna select the state, you can see it changes perfectly. Okay, and if we're gonna make it small or big, and it has a responsive. Ideally, you should never have this. So that's why I always try to stick to the corner radius from 2 up to 8, and 12 is max. I think this is the best, because when you do on mobile responsive, sometimes developers, what they do, in order to fit this on the screen, they're gonna make it like that, or they stretch it a bit more. So that's something that we should not have. Okay, this is how you create responsive text fields in Figma. Thank you and have a great day.